San Juan, are you with me? Coño, that didn't sound. Crypto Monday San Juan, are you here?
Yes.
All right, I guess your energy level is gone, huh? Mi gente! Están flojo. Okay, guys. Guys, you guys have a great panel tonight, man. We Crypto Monday San Juan has teamed up with Home is Puerto Rico, Annie Mustafa, and we've brought you guys the information that you are going to need if you are doing business on the island. You know, a very important message, right, Annie? Annie?
That is correct. We want to welcome you. First of all, I would like to know how many of you, this is your first time here? Your first time here in Crypto Monday San Juan?
Awesome.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome. So how many of you are from the group Home is Puerto Rico? A few there?
Awesome.
Over there?
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We are very excited to have you all here. And Isaac, first, because there's a lot of people that is new here, we would like to know what is Crypto Mondays?
Awesome. So Crypto Monday San Juan started 5 years ago after my brother Pedro Rivera decided to start doing something for the community here in San Juan. And they met up a couple of guys and the community started to grow. And we like to bring information to the community that's generally, not accessible. So we like to make sure that the community is aware of everything that's going on in the crypto space and in Puerto Rico, because it's very important that we impact where we live. So we're here to do that.
And well, you'll be wondering what is Home is Puerto Rico. When Home is Puerto Rico was created to serve as a bridge between the people that have decided to make Puerto Rico their home. So how many of you, Puerto Rico is their home? I didn't hear that. How many of you, Puerto Rico is their home?
Down floor. No energy in here.
Eso. So to serve, soy boricua para que tú lo sepas. So it's to serve as a bridge between the people that decided to come here to the island, either to do business or to live here, and local professionals. And that's why tonight we've partnered. And we are going to talk about debunking the myths of the Act 20, 22, and 60s. Tonight with us, we have a great panel. They're not in the order, but I'm going to present them. So, Carlos Fontan, he's the director of the Office of Incentives under... Finally, on the Department of Economic Development and Commerce. Give a huge applause to him.
Nice.
So for those that are submitting their decree, so he's the guy that, needs to check them out, and his team.
So you want to know him. You definitely want to meet him.
All lawyers. He's got a great team of how many lawyers?
We need more lawyers, but we have like 15 lawyers right now.
Okay. For a lot of decrees that are out there, including the agricultural decrees.
We manage every incentive program under Act 60. So basically, we manage more than 40 incentive programs. Before Act 60, we only managed 11 programs. Now we manage 40. So you can imagine how many work we have at the office.
Next to him is Mr. Humberto Mercader. He's the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Economic Development, and his focus is on strategic projects. Give applause to him.
Good evening. Pleasure being here with you and sharing some of the things that we're doing and some of the questions that Annie has for us.
And Isaac as well. So, the office is the one that signs your decree, okay? Next to him is CPA Jorge Mejia, a Puerto Rican founder of Fusion Works.
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Puerto Rico.
A graduate
And
from...
today, poster child of Law 20, right? I guess.
And he's also a graduate from the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus. Give a huge applause to him as well.
Pleasure to meet you.
Next,
First timer in Crypto Mondays.
first time in Crypto Mondays.
Welcome.
So first time for you also, right, Humberto and Carlos? First time, so.
Welcome, guys.
Not my first time.
I know. And with us, Alana Mediavilla. She's the founder of Film Kick, and she's an independent producer Among other things, she's a Puerto Rican that used to live in California, and she decided to return back to the island with her family. So welcome, Alana.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'm the poster child of La Diaspora coming back.
We need a lot more Puerto Ricans to come back.
We
to the island.
need people on this island. We need
Awesome.
people.
We're going to talk about that tonight, right?
Yes. So of course, Isaac. So first question, Isaac, you want to start?
Oh, go ahead, please. Please.
So, how many of you know about the Acts 2022, the difference of the Act 60? Just like half of the people here. So, in a brief, Humberto, you want to start to explain the basics of the Act 20, the 22, and the 60s?
So Act 60 is what we call the Incentives Code. It was enacted in 2019. It basically encompasses all of the incentives laws that were enacted in previous years, even from the 50s all the way to 2019. So it has 12 chapters, and it covers all the main activities that the government's public policy wants to incentivize. So, for example, manufacturing, agriculture, real estate investment, individual investors which used to be Act 22, exports, all types of exports. It could be a legal firm, it could be blockchain, it could be just tech, consulting, etc. All of the exporting used to be under Act 20, now is under Act 60. So Act 60, when people talk about Act 60, it's not just Act 22 and 20, it's a lot more than that. And I'll let Carlos talk a little bit more about that because, I want to say the biggest programs that we have include manufacturing and export of services. So again, Act 60 it encompasses all the incentives laws that Puerto Rico has passed through its history in just one code. So it's called the Code of Incentives.
So basically, if someone tells you I'm gonna apply for an Act 20, you cannot apply for an Act 20 anymore or an Act 22. You have to apply for Chapter 3 of Act 60 Export Services, of Chapter 1 of Act 60 of 2019. So basically, in 2019, the game changed, and now we manage all the incentive at the office, and basically that's the biggest change. Now you don't have to worry about what is the act that you have to identify to get the incentive. You go straight forward to the Act 60, and you don't have to worry about what agency is the one that managed that program. You go straight to the Department of Economic and Development, specifically to the Office of Incentives.
So, why were these incentives created? Do other countries have some acts that are similar, or is this just only for Puerto Rico?
And this is a misconception. They talk about Act 20 was enacted in 2012. Act 20 existed in Puerto Rico since 1980. It was part of the Manufacturing Act of 1980. Then they made a copy-paste and included in the Manufacturing Act of the 90s, and then they put it in the Act 73, 2008. And in 2012, they extrapolate that act to what we know as Act 20. The individual investor program is the one that is the new one. It was enacted in 2012, and the objective in that act was to attract foreign investors to the island in order to create job opportunities, to create more businesses, and basically to foster our economy.
And they were created to do all that because Puerto Rico was in a situation that it was.
And we wanted to diversify our economy also.
And this is normal only for Puerto Rico, or is this like any other countries have similar acts?
Many other countries have similar acts. Costa Rica, Panama, in Latin America in general, there are different policies to attract foreign investment. I think it's normal. Every country in the world wants to attract foreign investment. Puerto Rico's economy, and not a lot of people know this, 50% of our economy is manufacturing. And about 80% of that manufacturing is very specialized life sciences. So think about all the multinationals that do pharmaceutical work or biotech, AbbVie, Amgen, J&J, all of those companies are in Puerto Rico, have a very sophisticated operation in Puerto Rico, have a very strong workforce. But because of what Carlos mentioned, Puerto Rico was looking for ways to diversify its economy from just purely manufacturing. So growing its services sector, and inside of services, obviously Puerto Rico's market is very small, right? So in order for us to grow, we needed to look outside. We needed to look to the U.S. mainland. We need to look to Latin America. We need to look to the world. We need to integrate our economy into the world, and that's why, bringing people from outside of Puerto Rico. One, to bring new technologies, to bring new services, just to influence how the economy would grow and diversify. And then, what used to be Act 20, super relevant to incentivize the activity of exporting. And very important to know, Act 20, it's not just for foreigners or for foreign investors, it's for everyone, for every Puerto Rican. And this guy that's next to me can yeah. And it's important to understand, when you think about...
I want to clarify a misconception that everyone says that Act 22 is not for Puerto Rican, and that statement is not correct. Act 22 is for a person that was not a resident of Puerto Rico between 2006 and 2012. We have many Puerto Ricans that have come back to the island thanks to that incentive program. So that's a huge misconception.
I came here to talk about Law 20 as a local, so I guess that was my cue, kind of unrehearsed. So I work for FusionWorks, which is my company. We're a technology and business consulting company which provided services here in the island. After Hurricane Maria, we decided to start exporting our services, as the risk of having all of our revenue deriving from Puerto Rico was too risky. So we moved to Miami. I moved to Miami and started generating business in Miami. And those revenues flow through the island by Law 20. And we have a special tax rate, which allows us to reinvest more in our exporting business to grow and create jobs in the island. So basically, I guess that's why you invited me here. So if you guys have any questions as using the Law 20, the benefits, or whether it applies to Puerto Rican companies or not, you can ask me if you want.
And here's an example of almost 40% of grantees under Act 20 are Puerto Ricans. So that's also a misuse. Yes. Almost 40% exported services from Puerto Rico to foreign markets.
Like Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny is one of those?
Many artists created entities in Puerto Rico
That's a yes.
and exports their creative goods outside of the island.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, when you leave Puerto Rico, you don't really think you're necessarily going to be able to come back. You wonder how you're going to come back, because when you expose yourself to an economy in New York City or in California or in Austin or wherever, you are very much doing business with people all over the United States and all over the world. And I just never really thought, I left 16 years ago, I never thought that I would come back. And that is a thought as a Puerto Rican that's very sad. Like their songs have been written about this, poems, books have been written about the Puerto Rican that leaves and thinks, am I ever going to be able to come back? Or am I just going to die and they're going to ship my ashes? And, like who's going to handle that? And, like I'm telling you, I thought about these things. And my father was a very anti-Act 60 or 2022 person, and he was always like, these gringos, they moved to this island and they paid no taxes. And I'm like, on Facebook, and I was in California, and I'm like, whatever, okay, whatever. And just like marketing, he kept talking about it, and I'm like, paying my taxes diligently year after year in California, and I'm like, tell me more about this not paying taxes situation, because I'm paying a lot of frickin' taxes and I'm a self-made college dropout breadwinner of my frickin' family, and I'd like to keep more of my money, and I don't really want to give it to the pedophile ring in Hollywood. So I kind of want to leave California.
I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that some people understood that. And for me, when I saw that, I started looking into it. And one of my dad's friends, he's a CPA and a lawyer, and I was like, "Tell me about it." And I could work from anywhere that had Wi-Fi, anywhere in the world that had Wi-Fi. And I was like, "Are you telling me that coming back home to Puerto Rico is a possibility? You're telling me I can come back home with my family?" I'm gonna fucking do that. And that's what I did. And that's what I did in 2021. And I came for the tax incentive. And I hate to say that a PR person told me, like, don't tell people that. That's not a good part of the story. Don't tell that to people. But you know what? It's the truth.
It brought you back here. It brought you back to the island.
It is what brought me back. And it is something that as an entrepreneur, it brought me back, and it makes me feel very excited to tell other local entrepreneurs that these incentives are available for them. And that is one of the reasons why I'm really happy that I'm here today, because this is not just an incentive for the rich people. This is an incentive for anybody that is willing to, roll up their sleeves and get some work done.
What do we know the numbers on the people that return back to the island that are Puerto Rican?
Not enough.
Under Act 22, more than 100 Act 22 were born in Puerto Rico. And for purposes of Act 20 or for services, like I say, 40% of grantees under those programs are Puerto Ricans.
And what type of Puerto Ricans are coming under Act 22?
Different investor, and they create also the Act 20 businesses in Puerto Rico, and they export from there.
We've seen all types of businesses coming back.
Artists.
And from the creative industries, from a lot of engineering services coming back to the island, because with the pandemic, a lot of people are just giving services virtually, remote, right? So a lot of people are coming back to Puerto Rico to continue their company, their operation that they had on the mainland, but from Puerto Rico and obviously benefiting from Act 20.
We also have doctors that have come back to the island thanks to these incentive programs.
So tell us a little bit about this mix and match. Why do people, can they do like the 20, the 22, the 73 together? For example, Jorge, you have 20 and 73 together, right?
Yeah, which I wonder, what are they now? Are they under 60? The 3 is a 20
And the chapter 5, chapter 6 is the manufacturing.
manufacturing. So Puerto Rico has had incentives for the manufacturing industry for decades, I guess. So they applied a similar logic to building software. So my company builds software. So the software that's built in Puerto Rico under Law 73 provides incentives and special rates when you sell that software. You're able to obtain tax credits on the investment that you're putting into the software, so you can sell those credits, reinvent that money into your software and develop, faster, so you can export that software as well. So those two are perfect for a company like ours, that we export services and build software, and we export that software as well. So both the revenues from the software as well as the services, professional services, get a special rate of 4%.
And we get this question a lot. If one entity can have multiple degrees, and the answer is yes, it can have multiple degrees. An entity can have an export services degree because they export services, can have a manufacturing degree because they manufacture products. They can also have a green energy degree because they produce energy. As long as the entity qualify for a program under the Incentive Act, they can get multiple degrees.
To add to what Jorge said, companies like his that develop software, even manufacturing companies, there's a research and development tax credit that whatever you invest in developing your product that you're gonna sell or you're gonna service someone, you can get up to 50% of your investment back as a tax credit that you can then sell in the aftermarket. It sells for 94 cents to the dollar. So for startups, companies that are burning a lot of money because they're investing in creating their product, this tax credit is super relevant.
And there's also incentives for researchers to come live in the island, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
And let me get back to what Humberto just told about the R&D tax credit. Under Act 20, an Act 20 grantee didn't have access to those R&D tax credits under Act 20. With the enactment of Act 60, they now have access to those tax credits, so they can apply for R&D tax credits. Basically, if you work for a college, the UPR, or any kind of high education institution is in defining in the code. In Puerto Rico, that individual can ask for a researcher's and scientific degree, and they will not pay any taxes up to $195,000.
Isn't that great? So if you're doing research, if you're a researcher and come here to the island and work and do research with the university, with one of the universities in Puerto Rico, you will not have to pay taxes on your income, right? On your income. To almost $200,000. That's incredible.
Now, how do people find out about, because there's so many different degrees and acts, and it gets so confusing for the regular folk that doesn't deal with it every day. Even the people here on the island, because I live in Isabela, and I talk to people all over the place, and nobody knows on that side of the island like that I speak to about these things that they can be taken advantage of here in Puerto Rico.
They can access our official webpage at www.ddec.pr.gov, and they can call us, and they can write us an email to application@ddec.pr.gov.
It's as easy as Act 60 search on Google search, and you'll find all the chapters. I know not everyone likes to read a law.
Nobody's going back to school.
The keyword is going to be Act 60 overview.
Act 60 overview.
And you get the overviews.
Well, the thing is that if you are starting a business or in that area in business and economic development, probably there will be an incentive that you will get. So just make sure that you know which business you are.
So the incentive, the Puerto Rico incentive code has 300 pages. So you can imagine how many incentive programs we do have. Wow. And we have, like I said, programs from individuals, export services, green energy, manufacturing, film industry, tourism, opportunity zone, you name it.
What you cannot do is double dip. You cannot have like 2 degrees and then because one gives you, an exemption of 4%, then, get an exemption on 4%, add them, and then you get minus 8%. You cannot do that.
You cannot combine preferential tax rate, but you can have multiple degrees.
So, Alana, tell us about the degree that you have, which is very interesting because she's a young professional, and there's a lot of young professionals here.
So I have the Young Entrepreneurs Incentive, which is really great. I actually moved here for export service. My idea was to just move and carry on with my business the way that I had from anywhere with Wi-Fi. But when I came down, my lawyer was like, I'm sorry, but how old are you? And I was like, 34. And she's like, yes. So we can get you in as a young entrepreneur because until you're 35, you can apply for the Young Entrepreneurs Incentive. If you've gone to school in Puerto Rico, actually, maybe you guys can clarify a little bit more on exactly what the requirements are to be a young entrepreneur, joven empresario.
You gotta have less than 36 years when you apply, and you have to start operation after you apply. So basically, you can create an entity. The entity can be non-operational for 5 years. Then you apply, and then you start operation. That's an eligible entity for young entrepreneur.
Is there a lot more that goes into the young entrepreneur creed?
So what I like about it is that it's meant for locals. It really is meant. That's why I wanted to ask him on in terms of like what are the requirements, because it is meant for locals. And
that was my point. Like, do you have to leave and come back, or can you be born and raised here?
I went to college here, so I went to 2 years of Sagrado Corazon here before I left. So again, I don't know how many years you need to be a student or anything. I just know that it's.
There's no.
You just need to be younger than 36.
Exactly.
So you can be born and raised in the mainland. You come here, you're under 36, and you can apply.
You have to get a degree, a high school diploma from Puerto Rico.
Okay, so you need to have a high school diploma from Puerto Rico.
Yes, basically yes. And then you have to move to Puerto Rico, have less than 36 years, and apply for the.
Okay. So having to have a high school diploma from Puerto Rico, in a way, it makes the decree a lot more specific towards locals. And I can tell you that the first year, again, in California, that I started my business, I remember I was with my CPA, and he was like, yes, so you owe $18,000. And I was like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? And suddenly I had to care. And I was 22 years old, and I had to look at the fact that I owed the government that did nothing for me other than get in my way money. And so, I definitely got a lot more involved in politics at that point. But it would have been really nice. I wanted to know where my money was going.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because from my experience here, Puerto Rico makes it very difficult for businesses to start businesses and the red tape and all that.
To have that is incredible.
Wouldn't that be a little easier for Puerto Rico with all the degrees if they made it a little more simpler? I mean, I know that's not we could change here tonight. But I'm saying,
before we get into that, because that is a good subject, and we do need to talk about how to make it easier. Let's go to that. But before, with young entrepreneurs, you pay zero tax. And this is for locals. This is zero tax up to 300,000, right?
500,000.
500,000 or 3 years.
Net income.
Net income or 3 years. This is an incredible leg up. Like as an entrepreneur, there's, from my recollection, there is no state that offers that kind of incentive for an entrepreneur when they start their business, where they can make mistakes, they can invest that money back into their business, they can really be a young entrepreneur for 3 years or $500,000. There's probably 3 years comes before.
And they don't.
For most entrepreneurs.
And they don't pay any patente municipal volume of business in Puerto Rico, and they don't pay any property tax on real property.
So this is an incredible incentive that...
On personal property, excuse me.
And the business activities that qualify for that one?
Any legal business activity.
Legal.
Not related to cannabis.
So not any. But then I didn't want to interrupt you and derail you on how to make it more available, more known.
It's just
because
it's
that is
so
a very
hard.
good
I
point.
got a lot of friends here. I obviously Crypto Mondays, and there's a lot of people, young people, that are trying to do business here in Puerto Rico. And all I keep hearing is, it's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. There's so much red tape. I looked into a small business out here on the other side of the island, and I was like, wow. Well, yeah, it is a lot of red tape. It's very discouraging for a person to run into so many problems.
Yes.
Yes, there's certainly a lot of challenges in terms of ease of doing business, if you will. It's hard to justify it, right? But we are working really hard, and especially in a few areas. One of them, permits. We understand all the roadblocks that businesses have to get their permits, both construction but also use permits. So one of the things that we're doing is investing heavy in technology. We hope
That's awesome.
We hope that by next year we're able to launch our single business portal version 2. Which we
hopefully
hope
there's a lot of blockchain involved, right?
We'll
in the
have
technology.
Not there yet. Let's go one step at a time. But we're integrating a lot of the documents that a person needs to get in different agencies in Puerto Rico. We need to crawl before we start running, right? And certainly, 2-3 years ago we were not in a good spot. So our approach is integrating technology into it and trying to take off requirements out of for all of these permits, especially on the permit side. We're also doing some things in the incentive side, but we're not going to talk about it until we can launch them. So we're still a few months away. But yes, that's definitely one of the priorities in the department. We don't go out there just to talk about taxes. Our priority is how do we make Puerto Rico competitive, right? And it's a balance of a few things. One, talent and workforce, which is another one of our big priorities. Investing in innovation, which is, again, we're doing a lot of things in the research and development space with academia and different institutions, and that part of the ease of doing business.
Well, I, for one, think that, the acts are great, because it attracts, investors, people who've gone out the island to come back, things like that. I believe there was, in 1998, 5 million Puerto Ricans on the island, and now I think it's under 3 million. So we're going the wrong way. We're reverting. We need to move forward. And the way to do that, I believe, is to invite people from outside to come and enjoy the land.
I think also inspiring an entrepreneurial spirit and the people of the island. In California, 99% of the businesses are small businesses. 46% of the people employed in California are employed by a small business. So we can't really take for granted the power that a small business has. The beauty salons, the mechanics, the restaurants, these are the people that really keep an economy going. You definitely need the top, you need the tech companies, you need the big high net worth companies, and it's great to attract them, it's great to incubate them here, it's great to invest in those businesses here. I've been involving myself more and more with the tech entrepreneurs on the island, not just crypto, but tech. And there are a lot of really great ideas and a lot of really amazing IP and stuff that's coming out of this island. So we can really do that here. But let's not forget the little guys, because the little guys are the ants that keep this forest going. There's really something for everybody, which is something that I really like about the incentives. And when people say it's like just for the rich folks or something, it's not that I want to defend the rich folks, really. It's that we're missing the big picture when we don't see the opportunity for everybody else.
Misinformed people, and that's why we decided to do this tonight, was because there's so much out there not a lot of people take the time to read 300 pages. I know I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I would have, my wife would, but I wouldn't,
So 300 pages, we're not going to talk about that. So just to remind or refresh the people, what are the business activities that are allowed under the expert services company? Are there, have you seen an increment in these applications? And kind of what is the profile and why there has been so many changes. For example, Act 20, expert services company, used to have like 5 employees, then 3, then 2, then just like now it can be only the founder.
Basically, any services, consulting services, marketing services, professional services. Any service, any legal service that you export from Puerto Rico can qualify for an export services degree. And why we decrease the employment requirement, because we want to make the establishment of businesses in Puerto Rico easier. So if you don't have like a minimal employment requirement, it's gonna be more flexible for you guys to apply, for Puerto Rican to apply, for Puerto Rican to export services, and for foreign investors to come to the island, establish those businesses and export services from the island.
What is the profile, or what is the largest?
50% of our grantees export consulting services. We also have engineering, we have accountants, we have financial services, marketing services, but 50% of the grantees are exporting consulting services.
And is it working? Are the acts working? Is it helping Puerto Rico?
The Act 20, Act 22, and Act 273 have created almost 40,000 jobs in Puerto Rico. The average salary is almost $40,000 per salary, per employee.
And I think those numbers we're
Speak into the microphone, please.
We're aiming to update them this year, hopefully before the end of the year, because we have seen those numbers are up to 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
And they do pay taxes. Under Act 22, on average, they pay $60 million on tax return. That doesn't include EBU, excise taxes, any other kind of taxes. On average, they pay $60 million per year, and under Act 20, they pay almost $110 million per year.
Wow.
They do pay taxes in Puerto Rico.
I also want to give a disclosure for my incentive. It was not retroactive. So even though I applied 2021, I'm going to say this story. 2022, I paid California, I paid the Fed, and I paid Puerto Rico for my income. So I very much did pay taxes in 2021.
Because there is a rule that if you are an individual investor and you come to Puerto Rico and you have a capital gain and you recognize that capital gain within 10 years of moving to Puerto Rico, that gain is going to be subject to ordinary tax rates in Puerto Rico. So they do pay taxes.
I'm just saying I paid a shit ton of taxes last year, and it included Puerto Rico. So I didn't come to pay no taxes. I paid taxes, and I paid a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of CPAs, and it was harder to do business here than it was in California, for sure. It's not a silver bullet. It's not perfect yet. But the conversation needs to be had, and it's why I'm up here, because it's not about pro or anti. It's about coming to the table and seeing what needs to be done to do it
What
right.
works for the community.
Yeah, because of course it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But yes, I very much did pay taxes last year, and Puerto Rico has one of the highest sales taxes in the United States. So every time you go out, already your groceries and everything are probably. I was just in California and I was at Whole Foods and I was like, never did I think that Whole Foods was going to be cheaper. Like, oh my God, this cheese is cheaper here at Whole Foods than in Puerto Rico. So already the lifestyle here is more expensive than another place because we ship our food and there's other considerations to keep in mind. So yeah, it's not perfect, but this is my land and I am willing to roll up my sleeves and do what I need to do to make it right. And it is
Awesome.
definitely better than in many other places in the world. But no, we definitely pay taxes. Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about the process. Jorge, would you like to talk a little bit about the process of you applying for these acts and how long it took?
I hired a CPA to work on it.
The CPA hired a CPA.
Well, I'm a CPA myself, but there are experts, and I don't
Smart
have to
man.
it, so I did. I can refer you to the CPA. It's very good.
But I have to clarify that the effective date of the decree can be retroactive to the filing date of the decree. So basically, if we take up to 6 months, 8 months, the decree is going to be effective up to the filing day of the application.
The top one. Is there any other questions that you really want to ask the panel before we go into questions with anyone else out there? Is there anything else that needs to be spoke about now that?
Yes. Let's
Thank
talk
you.
a little bit about the individual investors. Do you have information about do the individual investors pay taxes? If they don't pay taxes, what other taxes they pay or not pay? Is this information public? And the number one question is is Mr. Paulson an Act 22? Because everybody is saying that he's an Act 22.
You can access the Act 22 grantees list on our website. It's public information. Like I just said before, they pay $60 million per year in income tax rates. There's also a misconception that if you buy a home and you sell that home and you get a capital gain, you will not pay any taxes on that capital gain. That is just wrong. They do have to pay ordinary tax rates on that gain. So there's a lot of misconception. The only income that is exempted under Act 22 individual investor are the one that is derived from dividends, interest, and capital gain that is derived from securities. So.
And also, if they create a new business here in Puerto Rico that is not related, do they have to pay taxes?
If that business doesn't have a decree, that business has to pay ordinary tax. If the business has a decree, the dividend that business distribute to the Act 22, but also you don't have to be an Act 22. Most of our entities that has a decree under Act 60 or the Act 20, Act 73, the dividend that entity distribute to the owner will not pay any taxes in Puerto Rico. So that is why artists in Puerto Rico create the entities in Puerto Rico. They export services outside of the island, and the dividend that artist gets as an owner of that entity will not pay any taxes up to 30 years.
So
But let me add something to that. Any owner of a manufacturing entity or an export service entity, any owner, Puerto Rican with or without Act 20, dividends are exempt, 0%. So you have the same benefit if you're an owner of that company and you get dividends from that company.
But so, for example, like a quick, if an Act 22, for example, or individual investors decide to create like a tire center here in Puerto Rico, would they have to pay taxes? Because our carreteras, they are so nice, and he wants to see an opportunity for a tire service. Would they have to pay taxes?
Well, if they get dividends, interest, and capital gain from that business, they will not pay any taxes in Puerto Rico, that individual. But the business per se is not an accepted business, so that business per se will have to pay taxes in Puerto Rico.
So they pay taxes in Puerto Rico. So, Isaac, you want to say something, Jorge?
Well, I would just to avoid misunderstandings, you might be, my company is Law 20, but those revenues, I mean, those net profits from the export operations only are exempt. The revenue that I generate from business within Puerto Rico are not exempt. And those are the revenues that actually pay these messy streets and the holes and whatever we have here are those revenues that are derived from the Puerto Rico operation. So you have to keep your books clean and you have to separate the operations and do the correct allocation of expenses to the revenue generated from the export services. So you have to keep your books clean and fair to comply and to avoid issues in any audit.
Awesome.
Because
Awesome.
you have to comply with all the terms and conditions of the decree and the act, and if you don't comply, we're oversighting the decrees and we are revoking decrees to those persons that don't comply with the requirement under the decrees.
So through that line, can like a person that lives here, why is a person have to be here 183 days?
That's just for the Individual Investor Act under Act 60 and Act 22. There's a definition. The definition states that the specific requirement under those incentive programs that you have to be a bona fide resident of Puerto Rico, and for purposes of being a bona fide resident of Puerto Rico, there's a presumption that
if you want to take advantage of it, you better be on the island. That's it.
Yes, but you also have to comply with the IRS present test, tax home tax, because you don't want to have any problem with the IRS. And
Awesome.
with Hacienda also, you don't have to work.
No, you don't want to pay the hacienda. Yeah. Is there a Kim Vasquez? Kim Vasquez here? Kim Vasquez? No? If you could see the lovely... Oh, Kim Fernandez. I'm sorry. I changed your name. Okay. Kim Fernandez. No? Kim Fernandez? If you could see my wife outside, the lovely lady Danae, thank you. Now, guys, it's to the fun part. Now we're going to ask our audience what they think about everything you said up here. Is there any questions? Oh, Lou. Here, hold on. I want everybody to hear this.
Thank you again for being here tonight. This is awesome. I was wondering if you could comment quickly on the demographics problem in Puerto Rico and how that relates to the tax incentives and how important they are for that issue facing Puerto Rican culture.
Good question. Great question. You got it?
When you mention demographics problem, you mean?
The average age in Puerto Rico is very high, and it's well above the reproduction rate. And basically, there's just not enough people in Puerto Rico, and we've not even come close to reproducing enough people to keep culture alive. And there's a lot of people that think within a generation this culture could be dead, which is very scary. We live here, we love the culture, it's a big problem. And historically, tax incentives have been a big part of fixing that. And I was curious what you all think.
I agree. I think when Act 22 was enacted, in part, it was how do we stop the brain drain and how do we bring new people to Puerto Rico? Because in a 10-year span, we lost almost 1 million people, like 600 to 800 people, 1,000 people. So, and most of them were productive young people. That they just went to the mainland to find better jobs. So definitely the tax incentives and the tax regime that we have is one to attract people from outside. Puerto Ricans mostly all of our diaspora, we want them back.
So I hope you're marketing in the Puerto Rican areas all over the mainland.
But we like to be a diverse place. We like the big city diversity, so we like people from everywhere, right? And as the gentleman mentioned, it's not just the people that we lost. We're not reproducing at the rate of previous generations, right? So the average age of the population is getting older and older, so not as productive. So we certainly have a challenge in front of us of how do we bring more young people to the island. And I have to say, the last 2-3 years have been encouraging. Our employment rate is at its lowest point in the history, 5.8. We still have challenges with participation rate. It's still in the 40s, low 40s, which is not what it's supposed to be. The U.S. average is around 60, so certainly a challenge there. But opportunities are rising, and we're seeing more and more companies like his Women were recently announced an acquisition. They're expanding. I think there's optimism in Puerto Rico, and I don't want to say it's all because of the tax law. Tax laws certainly help, but there's momentum with the reconstruction and with everything that's happening. We're
There's
super
a lot of
optimistic.
manufacturing on the island.
Yeah.
Honeywell just transferred the operation from Arizona to Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
the aftermarket with export services degree. And we do use the incentive program not to attract investors or people, Puerto Rican, to come back to the island, to also to retain persons in Puerto Rico. And I'm going to give you an example. People think that we just approve Act 22's degree, and that is just not true. We did in 2017, we enacted Act 14, that was an act to retain our physicians in Puerto Rico. And under that qualified physician program, that is the program with the most grantees. So basically, we have 5,000 doctors in Puerto Rico that were retained in the island thanks to that incentive program. We do have more degrees under the the qualified physician program than on the Act 22.
Awesome. Any more questions? Anybody over here? Wait. The cookies sound beautiful back here. Wow.
I have a question regarding the export services part of the Act 60. If you're a business, what percentage of the employees have to be residing here in Puerto Rico? Is it possible if you're a business that has employees in other countries or in the United States, is there a threshold as to the percentage of the employees that have to be residing in Puerto Rico?
Basically, the income that is going to be covered under that export degree is going to be the one that is generated from employees in Puerto Rico. You can have an employee outside Puerto Rico, but that income that they generate from that activity that is occurring outside Puerto Rico will not be eligible.
Awesome. Anybody else? Anybody on this side? Yep. Here we go.
Yes. So if you initially have a degree as an R&D company, and then hopefully your R&D is successful and you start manufacturing, can you change that degree from R&D to, say, green energy or something like that?
You can amend a degree within that incentive program, but you cannot amend that degree to cover another incentive program. So basically, if you have a manufacturing degree and currently you are doing R&D activities under that manufacturing degree, you can amend that degree to include, licensing or software development, because that is an activity covered under that incentive program. But you cannot convert that incentive degree to green energy or to tourism. You have to apply for another degree. Yes, and the same entity can have multiple degrees.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good night. I have 3 questions. First one, from the active businesses in Puerto Rico, what is the utilization rate of tax incentives across the island? Second one, what is the current tax credits issued? It can be 2019, doesn't have to be today, for research and development, hospitality, and for local purchase tax credits. And the third question, will there be any flexibility or fungibility implemented towards local purchase tax credits?
A lot of good questions.
Can you repeat the first one? Sorry that I didn't.
So what is the utilization rate of tax incentives under all chapters under Act 60, take into consideration the active corporations in the Department of State of Puerto Rico?
I'm going to answer that. Most of our grantees under the multiple incentive program are from Puerto Rico. To give you an example, under Act 20, 40% are from Puerto Rico. Under Act 73, that you've seen, these are the decrees for the big pharma, the big biotechnological entities. Almost 60% of grantees under Act 73 are from Puerto Rico.
So I think to narrow down the question more, if we have 200,000 companies registered in registro de corporaciones.
We have in Hacienda that pay taxes. Regular corporations are, I think it's 46,000. I don't have the exact number, but I know it's between 45 and 47. In terms of the incentives, businesses.
We have like 15,000 active decrees among different incentive acts, but that includes individuals.
So
Yes,
incentivized
15.
entities, incentivized entities are less than 10,000.
Any questions back here?
4 to 1 almost. Your second question was around credits.
Credits for manufacturing or research and development, manufacturing or agriculture.
So, what is the total number of credits issued, let's say, for the year 2019 or 2020 around R&D, be it Chapter 6 or Chapter 8, the Chapter 5 for hospitality, and then for local purchase tax credits?
On the R&D side, the last time I saw a tax expenditure report, which by the way, it's public, Google search it and you'll see all of the investment on the state on these credits. R&D was around 60 to 70. I'm sorry? Million, yeah. Hospitality, which is hotels, it was a little bit more. I think it was in the hundreds, low hundreds. On the buying goods and products from Puerto Rico, I think it was like 5 million. It was not that much, and that one's mostly used by multinational companies, but all of that information is public in the tax expenditure report published by the Treasury Department.
Like I said before, now an Act 20 can apply for R&D tax rate under the Puerto Rico Incentive Code. Under Act 20, you didn't have that option. Now under Act 60, they do have that option.
Awesome. Anybody else? Oh, we got 2 more questions, guys, and then we got to continue with the night. Where are we at? I'll do the ladies first here. Hold on.
Trigger warning. I am ethically and morally not sure about Act 60, and something I was hoping to hear addressed. You know, the government department that takes care of roads has seen its personnel slashed. Medicaid funding works differently in U.S. territories and in U.S. states, and the end result of that is that the island government is more responsible for healthcare funding proportionally than U.S. states. And like the details of that depend on emergency measures enacted by Congress from time to time, but the long-term future is not clear of healthcare in Puerto Rico. So there are public needs that are satisfied by tax contributions. And so how do you reason morally and ethically about the flow of money, a flow that keeps some of those resources out of the public pot?
I think the way that we...
Good question. Great question.
The way, and by any means, we don't think the incentives are perfect at all. I think there are a lot of ways to improve them. However, most of the incentives, you have to ask one question. If the incentive is not there, would the activity still happen? I'm going to give you an example. The tax expenditure report says that the cost of the Act 73, which is manufacturing, or now Act 60 manufacturing, is around $14 billion. That's what it says, right? However, how many of those companies would be here without the tax law? If you ask them, I would assure you, none of them. Because all of those multinational companies, they're looking for places where they can do business and it's not super high cost, right? And we compete with Singapore, with Ireland, Costa Rica. All of them have very similar strategies to try to attract those businesses because of the type of jobs that they create, high-paying jobs. That industry alone has a $70,000 average salary, the highest by far. So with that said, what I'm trying to say, a lot of these incentives, if they're not in place, the people or the activity would not happen. And if the activity doesn't happen, then it wouldn't be 14 billion. It would be 14 billion plus anything that they're paying today, which they pay almost 25% of the Puerto Rico budget. So again, and that's just manufacturing. I think all of the laws have a certain certain behavior similar to that. Some of them do not, but some of them are created because you want to incentivize something specifically, right? Agriculture people, farmers would be farmers still without the incentive, but would it be feasible for them to do it? Probably not, right?
And like we did with the qualified physician, we were in an emergency state, and we enacted that law to keep those physicians in Puerto Rico because they were receiving huge and very attractive offers outside of the island.
And one additional question that and believe me, we debate this inside government because it's policy making, right? An additional question is 4% the correct tax rate for these entities? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's 6, maybe it's 7. Maybe it's 2. We don't know. And that's kind of like what we do every day, right? Analyze all of these topics to come up with the right policy. And by any means, I don't think we are in the perfect spot, but we're analyzing this all the time.
And basically, that's why almost every 2 years, these acts get amended, which does not bring a lot of security for Puerto Rico as a whole.
So I am one of the people who moved my family and my companies to Puerto Rico for these tax incentives. And so I want to tell you, if you're looking for stories of people who decided to bring children to the island, people who decided to teach their children Spanish and learn the Puerto Rican culture, our family is absolutely an example of that. And also my business, my company, I brought them here for the tax incentives. I was wondering, just kind of at a high level, once you apply for the tax incentives, both the corporate ones and the individual investor ones, what does the examination process, what does the approval process look like? How long does it take before you have a signed decree? Kind of the basic facts.
So basically, we review and evaluate the application. You do have to comply with all the terms and conditions established in the act. We perform a background check. Basically, that background tells us everything about the people that is applying, and that is the number one cause for us to deny an application, because basically on the Act 60 individual investor, the requirement is that you were not a resident of Puerto Rico between 2006 and 2012, so that requirement is very easy to confirm. On the Act 60 export services, we do have to review the business activity, the description of the services, so that takes a little bit longer, but the key is that we perform a background check because we want the people to move to Puerto Rico to be law-abiding citizens. That's the main purpose of the tax incentive program. And like I just said, if we approve the decree and you don't comply with the terms and conditions of that decree, believe me, you're gonna get that decree revoked.
And through that road, let's talk a little bit about how many people have hand back their decree because they decided that they no longer want to live in Puerto Rico, and maybe how many rotten apples have the deck found.
I do have the specific number of the decree that we have revoked in the past 1.5 years. We have revoked 311 decrees in the past 1.5 years.
And usually it's 4.
In the first 10 years, there were only 29 decrees revoked, and in 1.5 years, we have revoked 311.
And having benefits means that you need to comply, right? And we are fully implementing compliance. We're auditing. We're making sure that you submit your annual reports. So please do. And one other thing, and if you know representatives, lawyers, CPAs that bring people, make sure that you bring law-abiding citizens. We have found applicants that have criminal record, and we don't accept their applications. They get not accepted. So make sure that if you invite people to Puerto Rico, make sure that are productive people that want to contribute to Puerto Rico and that are law-abiding citizens.
An impact in Puerto Rico in some way or another.
And please file those annual reports. That's the number one cause for us to revoke decrees, because the people doesn't file their annual reports.
Awesome. Any more questions? Last one? No? Oh, one more, last one. The young lady right here. Last question.
It's really not a question. I just would like to share my experience. I've been implementing systems since 2007. I remember I used to use a BlackBerry, and it was very slow. We couldn't do remote work because the internet was slow. So my life for a couple of years was traveling, implementing systems to the client side. And I literally worked between 3 to 6 and 9 months over 15 states. And I remember 2010, I got to work at Detroit, Michigan. And back then, the BlackBerries didn't have the GPS, right? The Google Maps. So I had like the military GPS taking me around the city, and I got lost. And all of a sudden, I was in a town where there were multiple streets, every house empty, boarded, like the movies. I thought it was a ghost town. I thought somebody was gonna jump on me and rob me. And I found a little bit more about the history about Detroit, and it was similar to what the Puerto Rico was going through. Puerto Rico went through a transformation where we went from manufacturing to a lot of companies of manufacturing leaving Puerto Rico. And that's when you see I saw somebody concerned about the age gap. You know, a lot of the younger generations, because all the manufacturing companies left Puerto Rico, the younger generation, just like me, had no choice but to move to the States. That's one of the reasons why I moved to the States. Like her history, in my case, I moved to Miami back then when I was in college. So what I wanted to say is, we all have to embrace globalization, okay? I'm a Puerto Rican that I support fully every type of changes, no matter what. If you're an immigrant, no matter if you're from the States, if you're from Colombia, like we have to embrace globalization and we have to spread the word. Like when I have fellow Puerto Ricans tell me, oh, I don't know about all these people coming and buy land. I'm like, no, they coming to Puerto Rico because they like Puerto Rico. If not, they wouldn't move here, right? They're coming to join our culture. We have to embrace them. And they're coming, I remember like Santurce, there were a whole bunch of streets for years that they were just like Detroit, full of homeless, you know. Now it's thriving, like full of restaurants. So what I wanted to say is, I want to share everybody. For the people who are not from Puerto Rico, yes, some people might not understand the changes, but other Puerto Ricans like myself, we do, and we embrace you. So just, you know, find a group of people that would help you adapt to the Puerto Rican culture. And for us Puerto Rican, we have to help people adapt to our culture and also share the knowledge with our fellow Puerto Ricans so that Puerto Rico can grow and strive with this transformation of globalization.
Awesome.
Thank you for your story. But real quick question before we close. No.
I just want to know what's the quick summary. I've heard all these great things, and I'm just trying to assimilate all together. What are the main points of advantage that these tax incentives have created for repeat the question? What are just really briefly, what are the main points that these tax incentives have created for Puerto Rico? Like, these different tax incentives, what are the main reasons that they've helped Puerto Rico?
New economy, new business opportunity, new employment, high-paying jobs. I mean, they do work.
And new industries. You know, the fintech, the blockchain, all of these are coming here to the island. So it's been an impact.
We're gonna close out, guys.
Yeah.
For the individual Puerto Rican, it has given us a reason to come back.
And that was my closing statement, real quick, guys. What are we doing to market this to the younger generation, to get the knowledge out to everyone on the island, to everyone on the mainland, to everyone all over the world? How are we reaching those people and letting them know, come to Puerto Rico for this?
I think we're not doing enough, but our main effort is with our partner Invest Puerto Rico, which I encourage all of you to please knock on their door, look for them, collaborate with them. We all need your help. We need
Invest
to spread
Puerto
the
Rico.
word. Invest Puerto Rico is a partner organization, a public and private partnership our main partner at the department, and they are in charge of Puerto Rico's promotion in the outside of Puerto Rico, right? They are focused on certain industries, tech, bioscience, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing. So a lot of the promotion message for Puerto Rico is the way of living here, talent, workforce, but also the tax regime, right? So that there are our main channel, if you will. But we'll need everyone
need
to
more
spread the word.
marketing.
Yes.
Each one of us is an ambassador of Puerto Rico. So it's it is part of our job to
spread the word.
To spread the word.
Awesome. Well,
so for next activities,
go ahead.
Next activity, just keep in mind, you can go to homeispuertorico.com for our next activities or join our Facebook page, Act 60 2022, Living and Doing Business in Puerto Rico.
And Crypto Mondays is here every week. Every week. It starts my weekend right now. But listen, guys, there is a big conference coming to Puerto Rico in less than 3 weeks. It's Puerto Rico Blockchain Week. We're going to have a lot of exciting people here from all over the world. We got a big opening party the 5th, I believe, of December. Then there's Coin Agenda, HODL. There's a couple of big conferences that are going on. And then we have Limitless December 9th on Friday. Tickets are on sale now. So if you want to get into the crypto space and definitely see what the crypto world is doing, check out these events. Go, get the knowledge you want to know, because the movement is here on the island. So
the big people are here.
They're definitely here. The movement is here. So guys, thank you for coming out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All of you is away from your family. Thank you for all you guys do. Let's impact Puerto Rico together, people, and let's spread the word.